Hey friends, welcome back to the show. Today we're diving into a topic that stirs up a lot of feelings for entrepreneurs and honestly for anyone stepping into a new level of leadership. And that's the word CEO. Now, depending on who you ask, CEO can feel like a loaded title. Some people wear it boldly, other people shrink back from it. Maybe you've thought, I can't call myself a CEO. I don't have a big company. It's just me. Or maybe you've worried that it sounds arrogant, like you're trying to be, I don't know, more than you are. But here's the truth. CEO isn't about company size. It's about ownership. It's about the way that you lead. It's the way you make decisions, the way you show up in business and in your life. Today, we're going to break this down so that by the end of this episode, you feel a whole lot less hesitant to call yourself the CEO and a whole lot more empowered to live like it.
Ever wonder what it really takes to build a business and a life that feels like yours? Welcome to That Big CEO Energy. I'm Callie, entrepreneur, operations whiz, and your go-to for the real, raw, and unfiltered side of business and life. Because let's be honest, entrepreneurship isn't just about strategy and success. It's about figuring out who you are in the messy middle, trying new things, well, just because you can, and creating a life that actually fits you. From solo deep dives to candid convos with powerhouse business owners, we're talking all about the highs and the lows and the why did no one warn me about this moments that come while chasing big dreams. So let's get uncomfortable, embrace the chaos, and make it happen.
Why do we resist the CEO title? Let's start with this resistance piece because I think that it is all about resistance that we don't give ourselves a title. Why do so many entrepreneurs and small business owners hesitate to use the word CEO? And I'm just going to share with you kind of like the three big reasons that I see over and over again. And the first one is we think that it's only for big corporations. Right? Like we picture someone in the corner office or, the last position that we worked before we left corporate or we're still there, or someone in a skyscraper office, somebody leading, more than you or more than, the few employees that you do have, or maybe they're leading thousands of employees, but, they're making big dollar deals and you maybe haven't even earned a penny yet. And sure, that's one vision of CEO, but that's not the only version. We feel, I think, like imposters sometimes, like if you've ever just said like, oh, I'm just a freelancer, or I'm just starting out, or I have a small business, you've already minimized yourself. Right? Where you've already claimed that this CEO title feels like pretending. And what does CEO stand for? It stands for Chief Executive Officer, but I want us to rewrite it. I want us to think of it as Chief Execution Officer, because that's exactly what we do inside of our businesses. We execute. And you, being the chief person, the owner of the business, right? You are the driving force of your business. And so when we say things like, I'm just a freelancer, or I just have a small business, or I'm just starting out, it minimizes what it is that we actually do, which is we are the marketing person, we are the salesperson, we are the social media management, right? Like, especially when we are first starting out. And so we have been conditioned, and this is my third reason, to shrink ourselves. Society says that if you're not making X amount of dollars, if you don't have X amount of employees, and if, you're not generating X amount of revenue, then you don't need to be here. You don't need to call yourself a CEO. And especially women, right? Especially creatives, we've been taught to soften our authority so that we don't intimidate anyone. We don't want to be too loud. We don't want to be too expressive. And maybe you're thinking, well, taking up space with a big title like CEO, it feels really, really, really scary. But that again is shrinking yourself, because here's the thing. Refusing to call yourself a CEO doesn't keep you humble. It keeps you small. It keeps you thinking inside of a box. And so I just want to bust some myths that we have going on. One is you need a team to be a CEO. And the reality is that if you're the one setting the vision, right, you're the one steering the ship and you're the one making the decisions, you're already the CEO. Whether your team is 100 people or it's just you and your laptop, the role doesn't change. Let's think about that. The role doesn't change if you are the one that is doing all of the vision work, all of the steering of the ship, and you're making the sole decisions. What does the CEO do? They do exactly that, right? The other myth is that CEO is only for businesses, not for your life. I was in a workshop. Well, it was like a growth session, but I had a woman say in there, I don't think any of this applies to me because I don't really have, I mean, I have a business, but I don't really, like, the things that you're talking about, I don't really need to make decisions on those things. It's more about of my personal life. And I said, well, you're the CEO of your life, right? You steer the ship. You have the vision for your family. You make decisions with your partner, but you also have to have a vision for where you are leading your family. And so you choose your priorities, you choose your energy investments, your boundaries. And if you don't make those choices with intention, someone else is going to make them for you. So yes, you are the CEO of your life. It is not just for businesses. And so the third one that I just want to cut out is calling yourself a CEO is arrogant. There's this word arrogant that floats around, and I think people tend to use that when they themselves feel like they're being pressed up against the back wall, or they don't feel like it's for them. And so the reality of the situation is that when you own a title, it is not arrogance, but it's taking on the responsibility of said title. So a CEO takes on radical ownership of whatever it is, their business, their life. They're accountable. There are people that depend on a CEO. They don't blame the market. They don't blame the algorithm. They don't blame their team. They look in the mirror first. And that's not arrogance. That's leadership. And I want to say that if you are a CEO of not a business or not, if you are working in a 9-to-5 and you are a CEO, you have to take accountability. You cannot blame the market, blame the algorithm, or blame the team, because everything starts from the top down. And so when you're looking around and you're saying, why is my business crumbling? Why is my family crumbling? Most of the time, friend, it is because there is something we are doing. And it's not that we're doing it wrong. It's doing it that isn't in alignment with what is actually happening and what needs to be happening. So taking on this CEO name and this CEO title is part of being a leader, not just to your business and to the rest of your life, but to yourself. So I want to reframe what we are actually calling CEO inside of even this podcast, right? That big CEO energy. And I like to reframe it into these 3 words: clarity, empowerment, and ownership. So I want to start with clarity first. And clarity is really about knowing what you want, what matters the most, and where you're headed, right? We talk about this all the time in every single podcast. is getting super, super clear on what it is first that we want, but what matters the absolute most, right? I work with my clients all the time to talk about like, yes, we're doing these things. We cannot just start pile driving everything on top because then it clouds out what it is that we're doing and then we think we don't get results. But when we know where we're headed and we do the very few things, maybe it's year 3, right? I mentioned it in a podcast episode. You're doing the 3 things really, really well all of the time. In business, that might be your vision for the year. In life, that might be the kind of parent, partner, or friend you want to be, right? Knowing what you want, what matters the most, and where you're headed. It's 3 really, really big things. And it takes a lot of work to get there, right? Throwing a CEO title on ourselves is not just like, whoa, I made it. That's not what it is. Let's move on to empowerment. Empowerment. Giving yourself permission to take up space, to make decisions, and to choose what works for you. In business, that means saying yes and no with confidence. In life, that means protecting your energy and honoring your values. So when we think about empowering ourselves to take up this space, to make decisions, to really choose what is working and what is not working, to get rid of, right? In business, we have to say yes and we have to say no. That is the reality of life. But you have to have this empowerment behind you to know that when you are making decisions, both in life and in business, you're making them for a reason that is honoring yourself and honoring the values that you have. Going back to clarity, you have known what you want, you know what matters most, and you know where you're headed. And the last one is the big one, is ownership. Owning your choices, owning your results, owning your story. CEOs don't wait for someone to come and rescue them. They create solutions. And in business, that's problem solving, and in life, that's taking up responsibility for how you show up. When we own who we are, what the story is, and what the outcomes are, we have no choice but to remain clear and be empowered to make decisions. So when you look at a CEO this way, it stops being this scary corporate world and it starts being a daily practice that you lean into. So how do you actually step into this CEO energy? Here's what we're not going to do. We're not going to wait until we hit some imaginary milestone in order to step into our CEO energy today. What we are going to do is these 3 things. We're going to introduce ourselves differently. So when someone asks what you do, say, I'm the CEO of Cal & Co. Try it out and see how it feels. I'm the CEO of Simplified Gifting. I'm the CEO of My Sunrise Phoenix. And then they will say, oh, what is that? And then you get the opportunity to give them the elevator pitch. Then you get the opportunity to share what it is that your business does. But from the get-go, you are making known that you own the business, right? You read the business. You're taking ownership on that. And so the next practice that I want you to start with is to make one CEO level decision this week. That could be outsourcing something, that could be setting a boundary, that could be investing in a tool that saves you time. Whatever it is, I want you to look at what's been sitting on your plate that needs decisions from you and just make one. But when you make it, I want you to consciously say to yourself, I did this because I am a decision maker in my company and I am a CEO of my company. Audibly, tell yourself that. And then the third practice I want you to start with this week is to audit your life like a business. Where is your energy leaking? Where are you overcommitting? How much white space do you have on your calendar? Where do you need to allocate more resources? CEOs review the numbers, right? Why not review your days the same way? Why not you say, okay, grandma offered to take little Johnny to soccer 3 times this week. Why am I telling her that, nope, I got it? Let her do that. Let her do that. As long as she's good, But let her do that, right? If your husband is like, oh, what do you want for dinner? Say to him, whatever you come up with is fine, right? Transfer the ownership. If he comes up with hot dogs and mac and cheese, eat the hot dogs and mac and cheese, right? But transferring and committing to giving away some of the things that you don't need to be doing is increasing your energy. You can review your days the same way that a CEO does. So here's what I want you to take away from today. Calling yourself a CEO doesn't require permission. It doesn't require a team or a corporate office. It only requires clarity, empowerment, and ownership. So whether you're running a business from your kitchen table, whether you're scaling a startup, or you're simply just choosing to lead your life with more intention, you, my friend, are the CEO. And I want you to say it out loud. I am the CEO of my business. Say it with me. I'll wait. I am the CEO of my business. I am the CEO of my life. I want you to own it, live it, and never apologize for it. Thanks for hanging out with me today. If this episode hit home for you, I'd love for you to share it with a friend who maybe needs a little bit of a reminder. But until next time, keep leading, keep creating, and keep showing up like the CEO that you already are.
Hey friend, thanks for hanging out with me today. If something in this episode clicked for you, I want you to shoot me a DM over on Instagram. The link is in the show notes. Let's chat about how you're making the messy middle work for you. If you loved what you heard, would you mind sharing this episode with a friend who needs to hear it too? And drop a quick review if you don't mind. It helps get the word out, and I appreciate it more than you know. Catch you in the next one.